Had a couple trick-or-treaters, which is cool. I didn't expect that, you know.
I would not have expected that in Wisconsin at all myself either.
Right, where 1 in 5 people have COVID right now. So I only had one set of trick-or-treaters tonight. It was cool just to see some normalcy. Like,
yeah,
just for a moment, because nothing has felt normal for 8 months. And then I just have these masks. You know, they were like maskless, which I don't care. That's not my decision. But they didn't have any masks on. They were just in costume. And they just came by for some candy. And it just felt like a normal moment.
That's what's got me worried about what the holiday season is going to be spelling out. Essentially, you're having one crowd of people who literally hasn't given a fuck since the very beginning. They are just going about their happy fucking business and could give a shit less. Then there's a whole other Venn diagram of people who have been like, okay, like, you know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then the holidays are going to roll around and they're going to be like, oh my god, I've been so starved of human affection for 10 months that, like, I need something. And then it's gonna be what is that? A synergistic wave. It's gonna be like 2 sine waves meeting each other simultaneously at their upswing. And it's gonna be a dark new year. It is going to be a dark new year.
And they're gonna be like, hey, I deserve this. I've been good. It's the holidays.
and then little do they know that their Uncle Rick has just been going to the bar this entire fucking time. And people are getting real freaking cocky with it. They're getting real.
Yeah. Like, back in April, I read a lot about the psychology of it. Humans are really bad at perceiving these unseen threats. When faced with a bear or like a tiger in the woods or something, we have a really good fight or flight response. But with something like a virus that just comes on slowly, we are very bad at perceiving the threat of that. So that, coupled with our inability to quantify numbers really well. So like 250,000 people have died at this point. That's like 8 football stadiums packed with people that are just gone.
See, but it's old Auntie Muriel, so it doesn't matter. That's effectively the line that's been like, okay, so like you're using that to like eat away at the number. This line of reasoning is a bit questionable, even if that's like half of what we're seeing here, even if that's 3/4 of what we're seeing here. What's your cutoff? Like, what's your, like, okay, I've lived long enough, you can just, like, shove me out of this plane. Most people, I mean, even suicidal people, after attempting, most of the time are desperately trying to save themselves, like, a lot of the time. That's why, like, brutal forms of, like, for sure suicide attempts, like gun... Oh.
Such a shitty moment for a dog to be squeaking a squeaky toy while you're talking about suicide. Just to bring some levity. Well, I'm on Twitter right now looking at what's trending, because that's a pretty good barometer of what people are into right now.
Well, what the Twitterverse is into, that is a very different piece.
Or like what Twitter wants us to be into. Like this is a very curated mechanism for making us look at different shit. I just listened to the fucking Behind the Bastards on Mark Zuckerberg. When I got done with it, I was like, oh my god, like I need to tell someone about Mark Zuckerberg. Like, he's such a piece of shit. Because like I had a pretty good idea of what makes Facebook shitty, and then I listened to that, and I was like, holy shit. I'm familiar with, like, okay, they're like influencing our behaviors and spreading false information, and bolstering all...
Not complying with international depositions to cooperate with a genocide investigation, being like, nah.
Right. That's what I didn't know about. That's what I wasn't too familiar with. I didn't look at, like, the whole picture outside of the United States. But yeah, they're, like, facilitating ethnic cleansings in Africa and not holding themselves accountable to it. I'm definitely looking forward to the election being over.
Yes.
Like, I can't even dedicate brain capacity to thinking about it anymore. Because I don't know, man. The polls and stuff say, like, like Biden's doing well, but that's exactly what the fuck happened in 2016, where it looked like Hillary was fine, and then she fucking lost.
I think people are also, well, I'm gonna say a couple things to that effect. For one, there's a lot of Trump voters that are lying to pollsters. I think that there is some percentage of, like, the quote-unquote margin of error that is not being accounted for. You have to get into the mind of a Trump voter. Trump voter picks up their fucking phone, and it's the mainstream media asking them their opinion. Oh, I'll just throw you off my scent real quick. Just like we did in 2016. Like, before it was bashful, now it's a tactic. Like, before it was like, I don't want to say that I'm voting for Trump, but, like, if he wins, that would be, like, super dope awesome. Then he won. That emboldened people. And then they were like, hey, the polls might have stopped people from showing up. Or it might have sent people to vote for XYZ candidate. And then, obviously, I mean, you bolstered Joe Biden in front of, like, actual concerned, like, leftist voters, and you're gonna get a lot of, like, queasy tummies. Like,
yeah. That's why I haven't been, like, talking about it. I don't want people to look at the numbers and think, oh yeah, that looks good. Like, they don't need me.
The second thing to, like, follow that up is not only that, but, like, if Biden wins, how bad that backlash is going to be if he turns into another Obama. And I swear to fucking God, you can set your watch to this. If Joe Biden fails that, like, person working 2 jobs, if Joe Biden fails that Uber driver that's, like, trying to, like, get to a place of employment and, like, trying to support themselves, like, we're fucked. Like, Trump 3.0 is going to be horrifying, and he's going to be a lot slicker than Donald Trump is. He's going to be a lot more reserved with how he's going to be going about, like, essentially white ethno-state horseshit.
I hadn't thought of that. Like, yeah, if Joe Biden fails, we're gonna get Trump 3.0, and that's gonna be fucking awful.
It's gonna be Stephen Miller. It's gonna be Tucker Carlson. Because, like, Tucker Carlson, he's smart enough to, like, wear the, like, worker's garb. He knows, like, oh, I'm just, like, in it for the working man, you know? Like Rupert Murdoch, that tiny, swell young man he is. He pulled himself up by his bootstraps way back in Australia.
Right, so, like, basically getting someone with the Trump sentiment, but basic human competency with, like...
Yeah, to, like, not say, like, Mexicans have a low IQ. Like, able to hold just that bit away from it. Because, like, right now we have apologists. Like, don't get me, we have apologists. But there's also, like, a big swath of Trump support that's just like, well, he's, like, a means to an end. Like, he's gonna stop the baby murders, and, like, I sure don't like how he talks, but, like, as long as he puts that nice Amy Coney Barrett on the court, like, I guess he's just okay with me. God forgives, and so do I. And, like, okay, give those people even less of an excuse to be like, I'm not voting for a Trumpist. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole problem. Still is the problem of Obama in my eyes. I get if like you're trying to like package up whatever fucking like secret backroom deal that you got like a gun flashed in front of you or something. Like, God knows what happens in that
Wait a
White
minute.
House.
Are you being hyperbolic? You're over exaggerating. Or do you really believe, you don't really believe that he's like sitting down at gunpoint making deals?
I think that he still perpetuated the war criminal state of the United States military. Do I think he is wholly responsible for continuing in a tradition of war criminality across the globe? But there's some responsibility that's always there. There's some responsibility, and that's where is it horse trading? I don't know. Like, I don't see how you sell arms to Saudi Arabia and justify that in any way, in any stretch. Like, I'm still waiting for that. Like, literally, it's just something we don't talk about because we're too busy talking about, like, when a fetus turns into a baby and when it's just a cluster of cells. Like, we don't talk about, like, hey, but, like, what about that weapons deal in Saudi Arabia that Trump signed, that, like, massive one, like, right before, like, the Yemen genocide? Anyone? I'll just go fuck off.
Ben, it's fine because it's not here. It doesn't fucking matter because it's somewhere else. You need to like walk up to most people on the street with a globe in your hand and say, "Hey, where's Yemen?" And they'd be like, "I think it's by the Arby's." I'll walk up.
That place is pretty good. I'll tell you what. I went there, and they give you a basket of bread. Now that's a classy move. There's not many places that'll give you a basket of bread anymore.
Have you ever been to a restaurant where they give you bread, but it's each bread is wrapped in plastic?
No.
Like, so it's a
Where did that happen?
I don't want to like
someone is wrapping rolls like a fucking like college cafeteria. They're wrapping each individual goddamn bread.
This isn't like a COVID precaution or anything. This is totally from like a cost benefit analysis where they like, okay, so if we put a bowl of bread down with 5 pieces of bread and they only eat 2, now we don't have to throw away those extra 3 pieces of bread. We can just put that in the next bowl of bread for the next person and only add 2. Yeah. So, sorry that you like triggered a core memory when you said we're talking about bread, and it wasn't really something I thought of.
I like to be a miner of memories.
Yeah, something you just like tripped a wire in my brain, and I was like, oh, that I hadn't thought of it since I was a kid, and now that I'm an adult, I'm like, wow, that's kind of weird. And do you want to take a break? Meanwhile, I'll try to figure out when early voting started in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that because that's always been like one of my favorite parts about Illinois. They have like a huge window for early voting.
What's cool about Wisconsin that Illinois doesn't do is you can actually register at the polls and on election day and vote in Wisconsin.
Huh.
Okay. You don't look like doesn't look like you believe me.
Well, no. I just that was more so a candid reaction to like I assumed like you were gonna like talk about some like ranked choice voting or something. Like I had built it up in my head more than like what you were gonna deliver. I was like, oh shit, like do they do something
like something actually innovative? No, I'm just telling you the way it should be. And that's underwhelming. Because common decency is lost on Republican-held state legislatures. So Sean Connery died today.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel about that?
It's people die. Like, I don't know. Like, he was old. Shit. Like, I don't know. That was a pretty good run. He was really fucking rich the entire time too, so like, good on him. Like, he got whatever he wanted for the most part. Like, once he like hit whatever Sean Connery is, like, what is Sean Connery to you? Like, I don't know. To me, he's like a fucking meme or something. Like, I don't know what he is.
To me, dude, this is gonna sound awful, but to me, Sean Connery is fucking Dragonheart. Do you remember that movie, Dragonheart, with the dragon? I don't know, it's like an 80s or 90s movie where this, like, kid is dying, so he, like... What's that? This prince is dying, so essentially this dragon, like, saves his life, and, he, like, gives him his heart. Like, the prince gets stabbed, and then the dragon gives the prince his heart. And Sean Connery is the voice of the dragon in this, like, B-level 80s or 90s movie. And that's what Sean Connery is to me. Is the dragon from Dragonheart. Which is terrible. Like, I know he's like this accomplished actor and everyone loves him. He was in James Bond movies. And he wasn't like, he was really good, right? Like, he was really good at acting. But when a celebrity dies, what bothers me is all the Facebook posts and Twitter posts like, oh my God, I can't believe he's dead. And it's like, fuck you, 2020. I can't believe this happened. And it's like, well, he was 90 years old. And he died in the Bahamas, surrounded by his family from old age. Like, that sounds pretty good. They're just, like, making it about themselves. Like, part of me sees these, like, posts about celebrity deaths on Facebook, and it really bothers me because it just seems to me like they're making it about themselves. Like, they see the celebrity dies, and they say, ooh, I should share this news on Facebook, and people are more likely to click on it and like it. Am I just being a cynical asshole?
I would just say, like, the overture to that would be that, like there are some of those, like, basal urges that I feel are, like, positive, but then it just, like, comes out in the wrong way, kind of a thing.
What does the person I went to high school with, what does their level of investment have that warrants them, like, making this grand public outcry that Sean Connery is dead on Facebook? They don't have that investment.
They don't have that investment, but I'm saying, like, there's some amount of self-involvement in the other that is, like, explicitly at the heart of that, you know? Or do I gotta walk some of that back?
No, I mean, you're fine. That's fine.
Okay.
You haven't swayed me yet. I'm waiting.
Yeah, okay. So, like...
Because I really want to be swayed, because I do feel like an asshole.
Well, no, but, like, you shouldn't feel like an asshole, because it's like...
You're definitely, like, playing devil's advocate and advocating on behalf of, like, the nameless Facebook poster in my rant. And I, like, that's... Like, thank you. That's because I don't... Yeah, I mean, you're giving some legitimacy to their, like, maybe they are sad.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
not even just that, but like that it could be like some deeper expression of like an unresolved like other thing. Like, okay, like I like don't get this with my mother because like I don't know who she is. It's just ineffective coping. Like that's what a lot of like the problems that are going on in American society, I feel, is just ineffective coping. It's like people are finding coping mechanisms, but it's all the wrong ones, and it's the ones that don't have like you said, it was the perniciousness of the threat. Like you can't see your front face like falling into a nest of like multimedia conglomerations that like shield you away from a world that's like totally inadequate for like what we got raised in. Like we were all raised with like this like conception of like you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever. Set your mind to it. You can do it. And then it's like, but then instead of that, you're met with like the media culture. You're met with movie stars. You're met with this, that, and the other thing. So then people like interface onto that versus like the real world. And then they get like that attached to it to where it's like, you know.
Damn, dude.
It's gone and gone.
Nice job.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping I was gonna be able to deliver that because I feel like sometimes I talk too fucking cryptically that it's like, and I always like do these like internal references and like that I'll just like say some shit and just like expect people to like know what's going on. Because like most of the time I just like sit in my room and just like think about shit, and just like mainlining politics, like just.
Still thinking about it. I'll think about it later. You're right. It shouldn't bother me at all.
I mean, not that it shouldn't though, because it's like, I mean, like even have some empathy with like your own circumstance. Like you're just like you're filtering out behaviors that like you don't agree with. And like that's how we even get to this point of like resolution and like autonomy is like you have to like I would argue you have to take like two comparative states and be like, okay, like this is what it would be like to be a Nazi prison guard. This is how it would not be that. So therefore, that other one.
You should watch Dragonheart. Content. Do you
Dragonheart.
Dragonheart? Do you feel like when we were younger, so like in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, that like the internet was around, but it wasn't like it is now? Do you feel like there's almost too much media, too much like television, too much news? Because like I just remember when like a new episode of something would come out, it would be like an event and everyone would talk about it. But now I feel like that doesn't happen too much anymore because there's so much. Like the organic sense of community that's lost because there's so much media nowadays, where if you want to talk about the latest episode of X, then to do that, you need to go find this, carve out like subreddit or a Facebook group or a Twitter thread. Like, you need to go find that on the internet, because if you go talk to your coworkers or your friends, the chances are they don't know what you're talking about, because there's so much media, there's so much saturation of content that they didn't watch the latest episode of X because they were watching or listening to something else. And I feel like now, compared to when we were younger, like that sense of community's lost.
Yeah, and it creates like these disparate languages too. Like, I don't know if you kind of remember me bringing that up earlier, of just like these like granular communities that form around like XYZ show or XYZ content. Like, you know how there's like Disney people. Disney people also come, like, there's so many Disney people that they come in so many different like ideologies in between there. Like, there's people who are just like, yeah, like, I like the movies, like they're whatever, like, I don't know, and like they just like they like volunteer at a soup kitchen and like 20 other things. Like, they're just like wholesome, like just angelic, like above us all, like they're in the top like 98th percentile of people. And then there's like other Disney people.
Like the ones that dress up like animals and fuck each other.
I'm not saying they are the same people, but they might be the same people.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so even in your example, though, I mean, they need to go find their own, like, carve out of the Disney fandom. Yeah. Like, there's some people that just want to talk about, like, Toy Story 4, and there's other people that are like, oh, I want to dress up like a fucking dog. And, well, Yeah. So, anyway, there's a lot of stuff to watch out there. It's a lot of There's a lot of stuff to watch, and there's a lot of different ways to express your fandom. We'll probably edit out this whole segment. I don't know. Whenever I think of like Disney people, when people say Disney people, I think of like furries, and I think of like college theater kids that...
That's what I think about.
Let's talk about college theater kids.
Let's talk about it.
Like, you know college theater kids. I know college theater kids. Do you like kind of like check in on them and see like how are things going? No, you don't. Okay.
Nah. What is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. No.
Well, I'm not Okay, hold on.
Yeah, no. It's just like I've mostly like checked out of like everyone's like, I don't know, just like inner business. Like, I'm just like trying to be like,
Yeah, which is the responsible thing to do. The unhealthy thing to do is to check in on these people 10 years later.
Don't get me wrong, I'm always interested to like hear like, but like it almost makes those nuggets sweeter when I don't keep up with people's shit and then I hear it.
Yeah, and I'm not even trying to be an asshole. It mostly started from the idea of like, when I was in college, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I really want to lean into the creative side of acting and directing and just going full hog on like moving to Los Angeles and trying to make it as like a video producer, an actor or whatever. And then there was another part of me that was like rational and was like, hey, you need to specialize in something that's going to pay your bills and put food on the table and provide for you. And like, so I kind of settled in the middle of those two extremes. And college theater kids were on this side of the spectrum where they were ready to like commit themselves to like, okay, this is my major. I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to go to auditions. I'm going to move to Los Angeles or New York. And this is going to be my career. And at the time when I was in college, I was like, oh, wow, like that takes a lot of balls, and I have a lot of respect for those people, and I really hope it works out for them in the long run. Part of myself that didn't lean into that was like, well, did it work out for them? Deep down, like I really hope that things work out for them. Because it's like, again, it's a lot of respect. It takes a lot.
I mean, has it?
Well, it hasn't. It hasn't worked out for them. Maybe they see it differently. What is success, Ben? Because what keeps me from quantifying it as success is they're committing months of effort to shows like community theater is basically what I'm talking about. Like, so these people are working, in retail or food service, and then on the side they're working, they're doing community theater projects. It's not my role to say that they're successful or not, because maybe they're really satisfied with the community theater side of things. Like, that brings them fulfillment. So it's not my role to say, like, hey, that shouldn't fulfill you. But when they started back in college or whatever, did they see themselves majoring in acting to become a community theater actor? Probably not, right? Like, they probably saw themselves working on, Steppenwolf or Broadway or moving to Los Angeles.
And then COVID. And then
COVID. Well, no, because this isn't like a recent thing. I mean, I graduated a long time ago. Yeah, I don't know. I hope it works out for those people. I hope it works out for the college theater kids. I watch only because I didn't lean into it 100%, and they did. And now I'm watching from the sidelines, like living vicariously through them.
That's the whole point of doing stuff like this.
But college theater kids, they also happen to usually be really into Disney.
That's how we got on this original.
Earlier this week, I watched Black Panther. Have you seen Black Panther, Ben?
Not recently, but I have seen it.
I mean, you know that the main actor he died. Chadwick Boseman. I watched it like a couple days ago, and I'm just trying to parse through what do you think Disney's gonna do with Chadwick Boseman. Do you think they're gonna recast him and just pretend like he didn't die, or do you think they're gonna weave it into the narrative that that there is a new Black Panther, kind of like Captain America?
They're going to weave it in. It's going to be Girl Boss. It's going to be Girl Boss Black Panther, because that's the exact, that's kind of the lineage of the Black Panthers to begin with, is like, leaders got assassinated. Like, it...
Holy shit, dude. Did you just pivot from the Marvel Black Panther to the real Black No, dude, I was trying to pivot into a wholesome segment about Marvel Comics, Black Panther, Marvel Cinematic Universe, Black Panther. Not the real civil rights activist Black Panthers. So, okay, this might hit close to home to you, and I don't want you to be offended by this. Does it kind of bother you, the people that drink like these big glasses of milk? Like, they pour themselves these big they pour themselves these glasses of milk just to drink it. Like, does that bother you at all?
You used to do it all the time.
Yeah, I know you used to do it all the time. It would be like 100 degrees outside, and you would cool off with a tall glass of vitamin D whole milk. Like, I get it. I get it if you're a child or like not a grown adult who is finished growing. Like, you've hit your plateau of growth and now you just need to sustain yourself. I don't think milk plays a role in that equation for sustaining yourself as a person. And I find it really weird when people like fill up a tall glass of milk from an animal that isn't a human and consume it. See, to me, I feel like milk should be treated like a sauce. Like, milk is a sauce, like to cereal. So on your cereal, you put on a sauce, and that's milk. And that makes it palatable. Because cereal by itself is kind of weird, right? But you put milk on it and it becomes palatable, and you can just eat it. But if you were to fill up a glass with ketchup or mustard and drink it, you're fucking weird.
What your equation doesn't account for is it's one of the most whole foods that you can consume as long as you are not lactose intolerant.
So you think vitamin D whole milk is good for you?
I wouldn't say that.
Like, if you want to rehydrate, if you're like sitting down for dinner.
Yeah, that would be, because this is what I was worried about you countering with. It's like, yeah, not for hydration. That would be not the way to go.
It's like a meal, almost.
Yeah, that's what a lot of supplementation shakes that like old people have to drink because they like can't bring themselves to eat enough calories. Like, almost all of it is like milk derived because it's so energy dense. Arguably and almost affirmatively, it is because of American subsidies, like farm subsidies that go towards like cattle that then produce milk that then like it's like a whole line of investment. But then, like, I mean, even baby formula for like children, and like right now there's like an uptick in kids being born because of COVID. Like, people are like stuck at home, so they're like pumping out kids right now. Like,
yeah, no, I totally get feeding your infant milk. I'm not against milk in its totality.
But like being a grown adult.
If you're a grown-ass adult and you're pouring yourself a glass of milk as your hydration choice, like, it's just fucked.
Just terrible.
It's just weird.
You're just disgusting.
Dude, I knew when this came... I knew when I would bring this up that you would not lean into it the way you leaned into some of my other topics. It just bothers me that we harvest this, like, quintessential material of life from a different species that is a cow and say, hey, let's put this in a jug and feed it to an adult American male person for hydration purposes. That to me is fucking weird. And instead should be like, hey, cashew milk, almond milk. There's so many other milks out there that they could be drinking, but instead they choose this.
It is super fucked, though. The American public, like, really needs to snap to reality of, like, what their appetite has begotten on the world.
Oh, like the mechanisms behind the scenes that help them fulfill this need to consume. Like fucking Tyson Foods and the animal abuse behind the scenes that...
Like, literally, at the very least, could the money just go to the people who are working it? Like, they can't even do that.
What do you mean?
Like, Tyson privatizes all of the profits. There's dudes whose job it is all day to cut off chickens' heads. That's all he does. All day. 8 hours a fucking day. He sits there and decapitates animals.
It's horrible.
He makes like $15 an hour.
Yeah, no, that's terrible. People don't think about that when they're
eating their McDonald's.
When they're eating their McDonald's, they don't care. That's so far removed from what is on their radar. So, in summary, the world is terrible, and there is no hope.
Things are looking bleak, but there's something about, like, going into it, like, it's a good fight to get into. I know what, like, I want to bring in, and that's, like, all we have to do. I really believe in that. Now you have to let it go, though, too.
Yeah. You left your little nugget and made an attempt, and that's all you can do.
And someone else will pick up the potato after you and try and run it uphill.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It's a very existential way of closing out this conversation. If anyone listens to this, appreciate you checking it out. And we'll come back with some more, topics that are worth discussing and topics that, maybe you didn't think were worth discussing, but we talk about anyway. So, yeah, man. Let's end it there.